Adnan?
Hello. Hi.
Hello.
I'm Adnan. I'm with eBay. I'm a senior product manager of the AI platforms at eBay. My AI journey started actually back in 2011 with Yahoo. Then after I had my own company, AI consulting, now I'm with eBay.
Excellent. Anita?
Hello, my name is Anita Karlsson Dion. I'm with IBM, where I'm part of our group within services, consulting services, where we do process outsourcing for our clients, and primarily finance, HR, and procurement across the board.
And I'm going to ask everybody to keep the mic kind of close to their mouth. I know it feels uncomfortable, and if you're not doing it the right way, I'll let you know, okay? Go for it.
I'm Bill Bronske. I'm Senior Solutions Architect for Globant. Globant is a company, digital software services company. We've been in business since 2003, providing digital transformation journeys for organizations, and as of about 2 years ago, shifted that focus a little bit to more cognitive journeys.
My name is Ricky Vessel. I'm here with a company called Griffin Open Systems. Holding the mic won't be close for a problem for me because usually I'm beatboxing into it. But I'll see if I can switch gears here for this panel. So we're a small company, about 4 people, hailing from Ohio. My perspective will probably be a little bit different from that of my esteemed colleagues here, but that's not a bad thing. Griffin Open Systems is primarily here to proselytize our Griffin AI process optimization toolkit, which is a software package that we've developed primarily for the optimization and automation of industrial processes. So if industrial process optimization is something that interests you, we're in booth 34. That's booth 34. Griffin AI will be there. If you'd,
Okay,
yeah. So industrial process optimization. Now I had a whole 3-minute introductory speech prepared for myself. Everyone went really fast, but I don't know. Maybe I'll just kick off the conversation with a little bit of my background, and we can go from there.
All right. Well, keep it on topic.
Hopefully it'll be on topic. Industrial process optimization, and why is that a cognitive problem? We could be talking about temperature set point control in a steel furnace, or airflow control in the boiler of a coal-fired power plant, maybe valve control in a chemical mixing facility, or equipment management in a food production environment. And when it comes to the most challenging of these processes, they are inherently cognitive because of the following. If you have a process, and we seek to model and optimize that process. So we create a neural network, we train it on our process data, and then we say, okay, neural network, optimize me, and boom, spits out recommendations. We cannot blindly apply those recommendations. Instead, they have to be placed within an existing framework of constraints, boundary conditions, known best practices, expectations from operations crew and engineering staff, not to mention several potentially conflicting objective criteria, and further not to mention various alarm states, equipment shutdown modes, failure modes, things that if we allow our AI to wander into haphazardly can cause big problems. So for me, in my sector, the cognitive solution comes from placing the output of an AI component, maybe a neural network, whether it be image classification, recommendation engine, or some other type of machine learning, placing that output into a framework, a more sophisticated framework of decision-making and control. And that's where it becomes a cognitive application as opposed to a simplistic AI application, which may be doing something impressive, like massive ingestion of images or whatnot. So yeah, I think that's not quite all of it, but it's probably enough for my little intro.
All right, that's great. So, I mean, as you can see, Ricky's already jumped in with the first question, which is, what does cognitive mean to you and your industry? And we were starting off with the concept of a definition, and we discovered as I had different talks with different people that the definition is very different depending on who you speak with. And I actually think that's okay. It has a little, if you were in Pedro's presentation, you heard a little bit about like where we are today versus where we might be going. In many ways, while we've been talking about this technology for a while, it's still evolving. And I also think that the word cognitive is going to mean different things in different industries as well. So why don't we just go down the road, since we already had Ricky's comments on it. Bill, why don't you give us what it means and what you're doing?
Sure. So I'm a senior solutions architect, so I deal with software. And fortunately for me, in my job, I often am the first point of contact with a new customer. And a lot of times, customers will come to us with an idea that's well-formed, or sometimes not. Sometimes it's really just a strategy. And as we've looked at the use of cognitive technologies with a mindset of experimentation, we've found kind of a common theme, which is if we can focus an organization on what makes them excellent or what makes them effective, if their focus can be there, it often becomes pretty clear those cognitive opportunities that exist. So, for example, if I recognize my core business and where I can really differentiate myself is in a certain area, if we could just look at everything else as an opportunity to overcome those obstacles. So I believe that a cognitive enterprise is one in which the enterprise recognizes their effectiveness and how they can be excellent within that. And then they use maybe a third-party AI watchman for all those other things. Think of all those opportunities, data or what have you, as many haystacks, and you're looking for a needle in any one of those. You don't even know what you're looking for. So it's great to have that AI kind of watchman outside of the busyness of what your core value is to help you.
Go for it.
So from my perspective, we were working with clients transforming their operation. And when we talk about the cognitive enterprise, it's really
Closer.
Closer?
Closer
Really?
or louder? There you go.
Okay. Hear me better now. It's really to incorporate exponential technologies into the operations, to do two things, right? One is which most everybody think about when you think about the processes operating your company, is to make it more efficient, to reduce the cost, to produce the products, to improve the profit of your company. But there's also huge importance around driving new opportunities, new growth areas for you as a company, to create an opportunity for you to expand your product set, expand new markets, new clients, and how you can leverage the cognitive capabilities around all these data that we as humans right now are producing on a daily basis. And that's what we want to do as we partner with our clients and we're focusing in the finance, in the HR and procurement space. What does that finance of the future organization look like? What are the capabilities that the finance, a CFO should have and provide insights to the business leadership team around where do I spend the next dollars? So it's both on the making the company more efficient by leveraging the technologies, but it's also finding opportunities for growth beyond what I do today and get ahead of competition and get the market and create the market in many ways.
And then I think everybody knows what you do in general as a company, but really curious in how you're looking at AI, because you guys are part of, no. I want you to talk about, you've been doing AI as an organization for a while, so I think you've got a good perspective on, or should I say, intense analytics that has evolved into AI. So what do you consider a cognitive enterprise now?
Yeah, starting with Yahoo, actually, we have been using AI since a long time. And I want to share about my startup experience when I did AI consulting. And what we see today is, and it says very right, so if you look at the company has only actually one main purpose: to be profitable. And profitable means either it's a bottom line or top line. So if your company just concentrates on the most important aspect, like those are the metrics, what do you want to do? You want to earn more money or save more money? Then it is much more easier to go out and find the right tools to figure it out, to solve that problem. And today every company is somehow surviving, but the industry is such that companies start using more and more AI. I mean, today's Google is Google because they were using AI since 15 years. Yahoo is Yahoo because they were using since also 15 years. And how do you compete with these companies today is to you start utilizing AI and first looking at your metrics. I mean, as a product manager, the first thing we look at is actually, okay, what are you trying to optimize? Then you can find some tool, some solution. Today, actually, there are lots of tools you can find. They do end-to-end AI. And then the rest is really easy, the implementation part. It is like if you think 30 years ago, maybe 20 years ago, the same thing we were doing with software. Companies weren't using software. Things were not automated. And we started automating things. We are at that stage today. Just using another type of software. Happened actually 5 years ago, 10 years ago with cloud. Everybody wanted to go to cloud, right? People didn't even know what that means. Today, everybody knows what cloud means. It is the same phenomena we're going through.
All right, I'm gonna pop over to Bill for a second because we were talking a little bit about robotic process automation. One of the interesting things I find about this is when I thought of robotic process automation, I thought of robots and how we actually got factory robots and they did a better job at putting in screws and assembling things. And now we're talking about something different. So when you hear this term, what are you thinking about it?
Yeah, it's really fascinating as we've talked amongst ourselves how there is a difference of kind of definition and different perspective. So the introduction of the word cognitive as a software development professional, I understand what algorithms are. I understand a rules-based decision tree. I understand how to programmatically control conditions and how I respond to those. And so we can see process automation and robotic process automation as a series of rules, steps that I could follow that, if I were to infer from watching, how a human performs and all of the perspectives and conditions and decisions that are being applied, I could automate that. I could program that in a module. And it's interesting that the definition has started to take on a new term, or a new definition, which embraces the cognitive revolution. So, it is a fascinating discussion. If we were to get in a room, I think we'd all find different perspectives. But ultimately, it comes down to what Anita was saying, is looking at humans and some of those decisions that are being made, some of those things that are being repeated oftentimes without thought. A lot of times those are kind of the first way we kind of embrace an AI or an automation life cycle. We might begin with that, and then applying applying the decisions that humans are making, maybe that they're not even aware of, and inferring that from the data. So it's definitely a complex topic.
Does anybody think they're doing robotic process automation at this point?
I had kind of a follow-up question to what Bill said, which is it helpful or necessary to specify that we seek a robotic process automation solution as opposed to a general AI or cognitive solution in this day and age, or is that an unnecessarily narrow way of thinking about it?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting question. It goes back to the definition. But we see that there are human tasks that are being performed. As you go through your day, once you start recognizing those, you'll start to observe the things that you do that, on your way to do what you feel is most important, or the things that motivate you at your workplace. And when we recognize the value of our humans and what they provide to our enterprise, to our business, our customers and their perspectives on things, if we can delight them, if we can just remove that busyness and some of the, again, where they're not even engaged in their creativity, what makes them human, their passion, their purpose, I think that's what we're talking about. So we're really, if we apply empathy to our customers, to our employees, I think that's a win. And I think, although I haven't heard that theme mentioned by name, I feel like it's come out of everything. It's, a lot of talk about, are we talking about replacing humans? Are we talking about augmenting humans? And I think if we just look at, what are the things that make our organization, our enterprise, really valuable in our marketplace? What differentiates us? And ultimately, it comes down to personalization and that personal touch.
I think Anita has a comment on this.
What's that?
I think Anita has a comment on this.
Great.
I brought up the microphone.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I would just like to add a comment around what we see when we work with clients around automating a process. And I'm not talking an industrial process, but a business process. It doesn't make any sense to automate a process that's inefficient, right? You're not going to get anywhere. What the time you got to take is to reimagine the process up front, maybe to eliminate the imperfections that you have built after years of doing, growing your company, maybe a lot of acquisitions, maybe some divestitures in the path as well, different systems, ERP systems even. How can you, what we need to do is to reimagine the processes, and then you apply automation into that, and then you can bring cognitive into that as a third step. But I would just be careful about just trying to throw out robots in your operation. You got to take the time to change the process, which also, by the way, adds two complex items there. One is the quality of the data. Another one is change management, right? It's easy, and we heard a previous speaker here, right? It's easy to say, hey, I've got something cool, let's implement that, let's go make it happen, it makes a lot of sense. But if we don't help the people, the human aspects, to change the way they used to do it, it's not going to work. You're going to spend all this money, and you're not going to get the output, the cost savings, or the revenue growth out of it. So that's our experience working with clients.
Thank
Sure. Yeah, one comment. Those are really good points. Now, we have been doing RPA, I mean, it's a new name, but automation since maybe 30 years, maybe beyond that. So the important thing is to understand that what is happening, why is it now so famous, everybody's talking about it. Isn't it just the same thing, we're just automating one process in one company? Well, the only value add, I think, nowadays is that using more and more machine learning because the hardware is much more cheaper, processing power is much more cheaper. Otherwise, it is no different than just, even on your Mac, you can run the robot and it can sort the invoices for you without even you working on it. And the aspects, scale is a really important aspect. So when you look at RPA, what scale are you looking at? Are you looking at to automate something on your laptop on your personal work? Or are you trying to automate a whole production line which was never been automated before? So those are important things you have to pay attention.
Regarding reimagining the process, I have to say I'm guilty of not doing that in a lot of our applications. In the industrial optimization sphere, often we're taking a process where normally a human is sitting at some sort of interface. In the distant past, it would have been something with lots of dials and levers and knobs and whistles and pulleys and whatnot. In the modern day, it's a multi-screen, multi-monitor touchscreen or pointer interface. And we're basically taking all of those tasks that an operator, a process operator, would be doing and attempting to automate them. These operators typically have one overriding priority, which is, don't blow up the facility. Don't accidentally dump thousands of gallons of reactant into a process that doesn't need any. Don't melt anything structural. Don't make anything really bad happen. And then they have this distant second priority of, if anything smart occurs to you, go ahead and do that to see if it can optimize the process. Well, we're taking over their entire job and not only sharing that priority of not blowing up the facility, but then we're also aggressively pursuing optimization of the process. Now, would this be considered RPA, robotic process automation, doing tasks that a human used to do through an interface? Perhaps, and it also falls under the more general category of cognitive automation, the cognitive component coming from the marriage of an AI component with a larger system of rules where we use heuristics and decision-making analysis to decide what would be the ideal control moves that a human would make or that we can make programmatically now, and give those unionized operators as much time to sleep as we can.
All right, I'm going to ask one more question, and then I'm going to go to the audience for questions. And so I'm going to start with Adnan. I would like you to say, if you were going to give a piece of advice to people, what's the one piece of advice you would give to them if they were thinking about building a cognitive enterprise? It could be something they should avoid or something they should do.
Okay, there are lots of things to do there, but the most important thing is, of course, look top down. Like, look, what is your company's goal? What are you trying to accomplish? And then things will align.
Anita, I know you and I had a discussion around data at some point.
Yeah, I was going to go there. Data is becoming more and more important, the quality of the data in your corporation, to take advantage of the capabilities going forward. And both within IBM and when we partner with clients, we see that traditionally we're not investing in that MDM, like managed data management, at all. Improving that, but you cannot do that any further, any longer, is my strong opinion. You got to work with data that you can trust and that you have the quality to help you really take advantage of the technologies that's coming. And we talked a lot about automation and robotics. I mean, blockchain is the next, I think, natural extension of that. Also, I think analytics is an area. Again, you got to have the data, but you can do a lot with analyzing your own data before you start to change a lot of processes to drive value for your corporation.
Yeah, a piece of advice, I think it would have to go back to, understanding what is the core value of your organization and how do your humans, play a part in that. And, then it begins with, forming that big goal, but then starting small. I think, we're all kind of on this learning curve together, and it's yet to be written exactly, how we're going to get from point A to point B. And as we move along that road from point A to point B, we see that, C sometimes creeps in the middle there. So I think just start small, allow your learnings and the process that you engage in to inform. I think keep your eyes wide open as far as business pivots and some of the opportunities. It was discussed earlier today that, some of the car manufacturers are finding that they can now sell services, media services, those kind of things. So keep your eyes open to pivots, embrace that experimental mindset. Don't be afraid of failure. It's been said, if you want to succeed more, fail more. We have very successful projects, which when represented in a PowerPoint deck would be about 90% failures. But each one of those failures represented key learnings that our organizations were able to pivot with, that become part of their core competency, their core knowledge.
So, and maybe some of the audience comments will help clarify this for me, but I'm not sure exactly where people stand in terms of, are you from a business that's just considering adopting some sort of AI solution? Are you a company that's already active in that and you're looking to level up? In our industry, a lot of times we're dealing with clients who don't necessarily have the resources or the know-how to dedicate to cognitive endeavors. And really, I feel that it's one of the prerequisites for success where you are able to dedicate, at least on some level, maybe just one person, to really getting a deep understanding of the AI tools that you're implementing. So being prepared to dedicate resources, and it has to be the right people. You need someone with a flexible mind who's open to learning, open to changing, who can solve diverse problems. That's the kind of mindset that's going to be successful in the cognitive realm. We've had clients who have really taken ownership of our product, which is this optimization toolkit, and applied it to many different problems and learned how to utilize it best. And we've had other clients who had maybe some rigid ideas about how AI and cognitive systems should work, and it ended up there was like a philosophical incompatibility with how we do things, and that person wasn't able to get great results for their business.
Okay, I am actually going to ask, please.
Yeah, one more point. So we talk always about goals, but in the industry, I've seen that companies have the wrong goals. Like I've talked to clients, they came to us saying, "Oh, we want the best recommendation engine." Now, recommendation engine is not a value of the company. It's not a goal of the company. It's a tool to accomplish something. And when you dig deeper, you understand that their goal is maybe user retention. A user retention is a measurable goal. A recommendation engine is not a goal. It's a tool you can use. Therefore, it's really important to identify what are you trying to accomplish and what are the metrics for it. Then you can find the tool for it. And in fact, that particular company, it turned out that they need a sales manager, not a recommendation engine, because they believe that they can sell more by putting a recommendation engine on their website. So that was a good learning.
I love it that the answer turned out that they needed a human instead of a tool. That's hysterical. Anybody have a question? Yeah, there's one in the back. Hold on. I'll come to you. Please state your name, company, and question. Thank you.
Thank you, and great moderating, by the way. Hi, I'm Clara. I'm the co-founder of Reply AI. We're an enterprise chatbot solution. And my question is really kind of directed, I guess, at Anita and maybe a little bit of Bill. One thing that you said, Anita, really struck me, which is the change agent element, which is, with AI, it bears a lot of similarities to social media, and that, when it became a thing, it's not like there were VPs of social waiting around for something to do. Companies needed to mature to the point where somebody was actually owning that. How do you feel that kind of coaching of the HR challenge within large enterprises becomes part of the services that you provide, to help companies identify who is the future chief AI officer or chief bot officer within that organization? Is that something that you even think is part of the future of cognitive enterprises? Because from where I sit, I feel that the biggest challenge for implementing AI is that HR one. So curious about how you deal with that.
Yeah, so to me, your question triggers the thought that we need different people. And we know that. The war of talent for the future is right there. And we need data scientists that you didn't need before. And Ricky, you mentioned too, right? The companies are now needing talent that they don't have to be able to solve real problems. And I think that's going to continue to evolve. And we're certainly partnering with, and we see the emergence with clients that we're working with, that they certainly have more data manager, or and changing the roles a little bit of the CIO have been very technology. Now it's more a partner to the business of how do we drive this change and what we really need to do. Because the worst thing is to spend millions of dollars in a big project that doesn't deliver the ROI that was the intent. And a lot of good intentions going into that. So yeah, new roles for sure. And also to be successful, the tops-down support, sponsorship, that they actually have to change. And then one last point, at IBM, I don't know how many of you know IBM, but we're pretty much tops-down company. It's like, do this and we all do that, basically. A lot of our clients say, no, we're not. We are not like that. It's a decentralized structure. We want the general manager in the countries to make the local decision, etc. But in some point here, I think it's going to merge into being a little bit more standard, a little bit more global or standardized to really reap the benefits of these type of investments. And that's also a change in the culture of companies that I see and I expect to see even further.
Anita did a great job on that question, but just wanted to enhance the value of the project sponsor. They've become our key champion, right? So they're very integral to the discovery team, to the data-driven discovery team. That we keep them abreast every moment so that they can communicate the value back to their stakeholders. And oftentimes we do have to embrace those dead ends, but it's important that next communication is what next and what does this mean for you? How does this change? Maybe it opened a door, so all of that. But project sponsors for us have been a big win for the agents.
All right. I don't see another question at this particular moment. I'll come. Okay, good. I'm going to ask you a question first, though, because I think it's sort of on topic. Bill, I had asked you to come up with a couple of examples. I know that there's been some clients that you've been working with that has been doing some interesting stuff on RPA. So maybe you can describe those quickly, and then I'll go over there for a question.
Sure. So from the RPA side, so we were engaged with a retailer who asked us to come solve some of their automation problems. And as we discussed with them, we have what we call a co-discover, co-design session with them. And as we sat with them and listened to the appropriate players in the ingredients, in the soup, if you will, we came to recognize two key players. one being a franchisee and the other one being a field consultant. So franchisees own their business, they buy into the business and they own it. They bought the right to be their own boss. But field consultants need to apply corporate policies, corporate procedures, et cetera. And what we found is that there was a lot of friction in that, human-to-human interaction. And once we were able to automate KPIs in such a way that it would provide a monetary impact and prioritize those as per the franchisee's highest priority needs, obviously what impacts my bottom line is what I'm going to care about the most. And if we could automate that in such a way that it provides them those actionable insights on a day-to-day basis in a mobile system, and they can just go ahead and proactively address the needs that hit their bottom line the most, it changed the conversation between the field consultant and the franchisee now. Because instead of being one of, oh, you're visiting me once per week to tell me what I'm doing wrong, it became one of, you're visiting me once per week to reward me and tell me what a great job I'm doing, impacting my bottom line. So it just built a trust model of human empathy that was just tremendous in accelerating the ability to push down policies, procedures, best practices from the corporation down to the individual franchisee.
And the bookseller? You want to quickly do the bookseller?
I'm sorry?
The bookseller example?
Yeah, sure. Another one was a bookseller that was investing hundreds of person hours per month just taking inventory and making sure that, they call it zone maintenance, making sure that each bookshelf has the appropriate books, that the books that are represented there are not discontinued or supposed to be pulled from shelves. What they were doing is going through book by book, pulling them off the shelf, scanning them, and then waiting for a code to come up on their screen. Obviously, you can see that that's just inherently a bad idea. So just taking a series of photographs, they were able to use computer vision, CV, to identify using two different object models, or two different AI models, object detection and then segmentation, just like Google image search does. They were able to come up with a list of inventory items that need to be moved or adjusted. So it saved hundreds of hours per store in man hours.
Sure, thank you. JJ from deepseer.ai. So my question has to do with change management and education. I mean, we can't wait for a new generation to come up. It's going to take a long time. But in the meantime, though, I have seen, sometimes you need to educate the senior leaders to what is possible with AI and big data, and as well as also the people who are really knowledgeable about business processes. Because often the AI and the data scientists don't know about business processes within each industry. And even beyond in industry expertise. So I was wondering, from your point of view, if you're starting to see a movement into educating, whether you do it or others are doing it. One, the executive, because culture flows down, and so that kind of knowledge to really implement AI is going to have to come from the top down. And also another level of education to the business people, not just the engineers and scientists.
If I start. So yes, definitely. You got to have the sponsorship at the top, and we have done some research studies with a lot of interviews to show that there are CEOs that are more cognitive, more ahead of the game, and the financials of those operations are healthier than others. Better revenue growth, better profit margin, etc. Right, where they are really driving for including technology and becoming more cognitive. So there's a correlation between that foresight from executive leadership team to how they're operating the organization to get better financial results. And I think with everything that's going on and everything that's communicated, I think there's few senior executives that would not want to change in the culture of the company. It's not easy, but they will be for it. We see that a lot. There's really no one in the clients that we're working with that don't want to do it. Like, for example, we have one client that we now started a blockchain project a couple of months ago, and this within finance in account payable, And it's now everybody want to do blockchain. It just kind of ripple effect within the corporation because everyone want to do that first blockchain project, for example. And I think that sets a little bit, the tone is from the top as a culture for the company. But change management is the same old, at least from my perspective. There's no shortcuts. You got to have the team, you got to have the leadership, the evangelist, like Maribel said, around it, and teams on the ground that is engaged, motivated, and see the bigger picture as to why it's important to change. For me, it's more important than ever to really to recognize, and you mentioned the point a couple times, the empathy, right? The human, we're still here. We need to change to continue to have fun working and continue to add value to the operation.
Your question was about education, and education is hugely important, and understanding of cognitive technologies is definitely a big pain point that as people that work in the industry, we maybe tend to assume that everyone has sort of basic understandings about what the technology does exactly and what its capabilities are, but quite often that's not the case, and people maybe expect too much of it, or they have only a murky understanding of what it does. And I'm not sure what the answer to that is, but I don't think there's such thing as providing the client with too much education about how your product is going to work and what it's going to do. And especially if you can foster that within your company from the leadership and down to the people interacting with the technology on a low level, that would be very helpful.
Yes. Yeah, one other thing about this question came up before as well. The CAIO, and what does that person do, or can we convert a CTO into CEO or another IT person? So the AI
Closer.
is a closer, right? AI, using AI is a mindset. So unless you change your mindset to train the computer to do certain stuff, implementing an AI solution won't bring much. So mindset means next time you develop a solution, you think not the code, but how can I train the computer to code itself to do the job for me? So if you start thinking from that perspective, actually everything in the company, all the solutions start looking very, very different. And that's actually part of the RPA and the first step of the RPA.
Any final comments before we wrap up? Oh, do we have time for another? No, we don't. Maybe you guys can stay around outside for a few minutes to answer any last questions. That sound good? All right. Final comment, final word, we good? All right. Thanks to the panel. Thank you.